So in this video, I'm going to talk about reflections. Reflections are things that are around us all the time. Sometimes we notice them if they're kind of cool, but we don't always think about the different ways in which they're made. So they can often be made in puddles. So shallow water, especially if it's on a dark road, can be very reflective. So whether it's something large, like a whole street area, or a landscape, something like this, or even a detail, something closer that we see reflected in a puddle. But the more interesting thing that is in front of us that is being reflected, the more interesting your photo is going to be. So yes, you can have reflections of lots of different things, but if it's boring in the first place, it might still be boring in a reflection. So try to find something more interesting that is being reflected. And then in deeper sources of water, lakes, ponds, pools, the ocean, if it's very, very calm out, or a bay or something like that. So again, it can be a landscape or something closer up, like this little grass growing out of the water and then being reflected. It makes a nice symmetrical from the side. You know, the top and the bottom are symmetrical to each other composition. You can have people interact with your reflections in some way. So here's someone interacting with water, a big body of water. And then metal. Of course, metal is reflective if it's nice and shiny. So there might be objects around you or that you see that are metallic that can reflect something. Here, even just a simple spoon or jewelry has a nice reflection. Should be very nice and shiny and clean to get a good reflection. And then mirrors. This was just a mirror that was taken outside and put on the ground. So you can take and place mirrors wherever you like. Or there might be other things that have a mirrored surface, like sunglasses, or even a hand mirror or a wall mirror. And again, the more interesting thing you have to photograph in the first place. So if you have a model, if they're kind of arranged nicely with, interesting clothes or hair or makeup or face or whatever facial expression, it's going to be a lot more interesting when it's being reflected. So these are just hand mirrors, and this is a wall mirror. So again, if you're going to do something like a wall mirror, make sure that there's no extra clutter or anything that would distract the viewer, and just make sure it's a strong composition overall. There might be shiny surfaces. So there might be a counter or a table that's been waxed or something that has a very shiny surface and that will reflect. And this one I think is particularly strong because there's not too much going on. The last one, there was kind of a lot in the background. This one is a little more simplified and it really shows off the reflection even more. And this one, actually, it's a little subtle, but this is one of my students' photos, actually. And you see the reflection of the man in the picture on the wall and of the dishes on the wall too. So that is very subtle, but it works very well. In glasses of water, there's this cool thing. So if you have certain rounded glasses of water, like a wine glass, and you put water in it, then it can flip whatever's behind it. So we see that there. We see that here, a little more simplified. It might be a little easier to understand. And in this vase, it works in the same way because it's rounded. So if you want to try something like this, go ahead. You might have to try a couple different glasses and amounts of water in it. And then in windows. So, this has a lot of people in it. That's not going to happen right now. But still, we see what's inside the window and what's going on the outside of the window. So if you are in a place where there's large windows, this can work very well. Or even if you're just near a home, you can actually have someone stand inside the window and then go outside, and then you'll be able to get whatever's over here reflected on the window with the person standing near the window. And that can be quite lovely. And here that's the same thing, but instead of showing the house around it is just the window. So this woman is standing close to the window inside, and we see everything that's outside the window being reflected on her face. And so those are the different kinds of reflections. And if you have any questions, please do not hesitate to contact me.